Hey, welcome to the Press Box Chronicles with Jeff Pearlman. Hey, welcome to the Press Box Chronicles with Jeff Pearlman, the show where a cranky middle-aged sports writer, that's me, who has seen it all, takes you behind the scenes and into the stories. I'm your host, Jeff Pearlman. And today, we're going to delve into one of the most interesting subjects of my career. And it is Barry Bonds, the controversial, scandalous, amazingly talented, all-time great Major League Baseball star. And I'm going to do something on this episode that might surprise you and might take some of you aback. After this intro, I am not talking about steroids or performance-enhancing drugs. I'm not going to talk about how Barry Bonds blatantly used PEDs to get bigger, stronger, faster, last longer. I'm not going to talk about how literally his head size grew when he was with the Giants. His skull increased in size, which is physically impossible unless either you're taking crazy amounts of human growth hormones or you have the disease acromegaly made famous by Andre the Giant. I'm not going to talk about drugs. Instead, what I'm going to delve into is the really narcissistic, weird, damning, I don't know if I want to call it a disorder, but the personality of Barry Bonds. And nowadays, when people say Bonds should be in the Hall, why isn't Bonds in the Hall? Yes, drugs are a pretty fair answer. But I also think when you treat everyone like shit, nonstop, repeatedly, people remember. And when you need their help later on, people are going to refer to you and refer back to the times when you wouldn't sign an autograph for their kid, where you shut a door in their face, where you talk to them like they were the excrement below your shoe. And that, in a lot of ways, is a story of Barry Lamar Bonds.
He hits one high. Barry Bonds with a spectacular three-run homer. Ball was the right field. Forget about it. This one is headed for New Jersey. High into the upper deck.
So this is going to sound kind of weird to say, and I hope you give me a little time to explain this. But in a lot of ways, Barry Bonds was born to be an asshole. And I don't think that's really a fair way of judging people. I don't think if someone is an asshole, you can say, well, he was born to be an asshole, so he has an excuse. But Barry Bonds was born in a lot of ways to be an asshole. His dad was Bobby Bonds, a very, very good Major League Baseball player who started with the San Francisco Giants in 1968. And people forget how good Bobby Bonds was as a player. And I have his stats in front of me. Bobby Bonds played for the Giants from 1968 to 1974. He was an outfielder. He was fast. He was quick. He was powerful. He could do everything. 1969, 32 homers, 45 steals. 1970, 26 homers, 48 steals. 1971, 33 homers, 26 steals. 72, 26, 44. 1973, 39, 43. 1974, 21, 41. Bobby Bonds is a great, great baseball player, and he happens to be there with his close friend, Willie Mays. And it's a very interesting time to be a black baseball player. It's post Jackie Robinson. The game now, rosters are filled with black ball players. But there's this thing, this stigma. All the members of the media covering baseball are white, all of them, and they're all white men. There's no understanding, no real understanding of the experience of what it is to be a black ball player or a black man in America or a black person in America. There's no empathy. There's no black representation in the media. And before long, when you start reading about black players, they're malcontents. They're lazy, they're disinterested, they're sloppy, they're probably using drugs, they're going out at night, they're partying too much. Like, pick your negative, and it's affixed to any black baseball player who does not conform to what the media wants. Now, Hank Aaron, who was always super polite and sort of rolled with it, Hank Aaron didn't get that treatment. But Willie Mays did, and Bobby Bonds sure as hell did. And that led to a bitterness and a resentment that was justified and understanding. And beginning in 1974, Bobby Bonds is this journeyman. He's highly skilled. He can help your team win, but he bounces from the Yankees to the Angels to the White Sox to the Rangers to the Indians to the Cardinals. 1981, he's out of baseball. He's 35 years old, and he's basically dismissed as this has-been who poisons a clubhouse. And this is the guy Barry Bonds not just looks up to, but idolizes and patterns himself after. And Barry Bonds grows up in Northern California, goes to college at Arizona State, and he shows up and he's a dick from day one. And when I say he's a dick from day one, he's literally a dick from day one. He shows up in a brand new Trans Am that his dad gave him as a gift. And he pulls up. And you know, college, even if you're a college baseball player, even if you're projected to ultimately be a star in the majors or a great major league player, college is a Toyota territory. College is, the Datsun 510. Has 75,000 miles on it, and your parents are letting you use it to go to college. It's not Trans Am. And Barry Bonds shows up as a freshman, and he's just insufferable. He's just insufferable. And from day one, his teammates find him arrogant. They find him dismissive. They find him rude. And that season, Arizona State goes on a trip to Hawaii to play a 4-game series against the University of Hawaii. And there's a curfew, and a bunch of the players miss curfew, and Barry Bonds is one of them. And one of the captains on the Arizona State team is a guy named Oddibe McDowell. You might remember later on he played with the Rangers and the Atlanta Braves. And Oddibe McDowell, as a captain, is told by the coach, Jim Brock, you need to talk to Barry. And Oddibe McDowell pulls freshman Barry Bonds aside and says, listen, you can't do this. When we get back to Arizona, you're going to have to do some serious running as punishment for missing curfew. And Barry Bonds says to Oddibe McDowell, fuck you, I'm not doing shit. Well, Oddibe McDowell goes back to the coach, Jim Brock, who's an old school disciplinarian, like red-ass coach who doesn't take any shit. And Jim Brock is basically like, he said what? And Oddibe McDowell is like, well, he told me to fuck off. He doesn't want me to run. Jim Brock says, I'm going to take care of this. And the head coach at Arizona State holds a team meeting with everyone on the roster except Barry. And this is Barry Bonds' freshman year. Barry Bonds is a high-level recruit. And he says to the players, you guys have been complaining about Barry nonstop. I want you to hold a private meeting and you guys hold a vote. And if you guys vote that he shouldn't be on the roster anymore, I'm going to kick him off the team permanently. It is up to you guys. And Jim Brock leaves the room. And the players hold this vote. And they vote that Barry Bonds, they don't want him on the team anymore. Even though he's already the best player, they do not want Barry Bonds in this roster. And Oddibe McDowell, the captain of the Sun Devils, goes to Jim Brock, the head coach, and says, Coach, we've decided we don't want Barry on the team. And Jim Brock is like, wait, what? And he's like, we don't want him on the team. We don't want him anymore. You told us to vote on this. And Jim Brock is like, was the vote unanimous? And McDowell was like, well, 2 guys voted to keep him. Well, it had to be unanimous. If it's not unanimous, you got to keep him. So these guys are pissed because they didn't want him on the team, and they thought they were being empowered by their coach, and their coach is like, oh, they basically called his bluff. So Barry Bonds stays on the Arizona State team, and he's drafted by the Pirates in 1985. He's a 7th pick overall in a draft where B.J. Surhoff goes first. Will Clark is picked very high. Bonds goes to the Pirates. And Barry Bonds is assigned to the Class A team, Prince William. And he shows up for his first day, and the manager is Ed Ott, the former Pirate catcher, World Series winner, gruff baseball guy. And Barry Bonds walks into the door the first day, and he goes, hey, I'm Barry Bonds, the #1 pick. And Ed Ott says, I'm Ed Ott, your manager. Now get the fuck out and come back in respectfully. And Bonds leaves and he comes back in. And Bonds gets promoted very quickly to the Pirates. And they all hate him. He's insufferable. He's arrogant. He's condescending. He's a dick. Later on, Andy Van Slyke, the star center fielder for the Pirates, said, we would rather lose without him than win with him. That is how much they hate Barry Bonds. And even though he's productive, and even though he has Griffey-like skills, and even though he's going to be a superstar, he's just annoying. And there's a famous spring training argument between the manager, Jim Leland, and Barry Bonds, where Jim Leland just lights into him.
Don't fuck with me.
I'm not fucking with nobody.
Don't fuck with me, no. I've had enough of this fucking shit. I'm in it because I'm the fucking manager of this fucking team, that's why I'm in it. You don't want to be here, get your fucking ass out. I'll do it.
And it's this moment of like, fuck yeah, from the Pirate players, from all the guys on the Pirates, Doug Drabeck and Andy Van Slyke and Jim Gott and all these players who are so fed up with this asshole. And Jim Leland, this gnarly, his face looks like chewing gum and he smokes cigarette after cigarette, letting the bonus baby know that we're not taking your shit anymore is one of the great moments, not just in Pittsburgh Pirate history, but in dealing with asshole history in America. And you would think Barry Bonds, having experienced that, would actually improve his behavior, but amazingly, he got worse. In 2006, I wrote my second book, and it is this: Love Me, Hate Me, Barry Bonds and the Making of AntiHero. I would say 7 people bought it, but probably 4 of those got it for free. It was one of my worst selling books. You learn the hard way that people don't want to spend $25 on an asshole, I have learned. What made the book interesting and the reporting interesting is that Barry Bonds is actually a really nuanced figure. He's not a John Rocker who's dumb as rocks. He's not unaware. He's not Roger Clemens who couldn't name 5 politicians. Like, Barry Bonds knew what was going on. He was smart and he was well-read, but he just was mean. And that was the thing I kept finding from working on this book. And the stories of Barry Bonds' cruelty just were staggering. And he joined the San Francisco Giants in 1993. And Sports Illustrated actually sent one of their best writers, a guy named Richard Hoffer, to write about Barry being a star in San Francisco. And I think it was 5 or 6 days, Barry blew Richard Hoffer off over and over and over again. Yo, man, okay, later. No, I can't do today. No, I'm not going to do now. And he wound up never getting him. And it became this really famous Sports Illustrated story. And the headline was, I'm Barry Bonds and you're not. The smaller thing that went unknown that I actually love and wrote about a lot in my book is they sent a photographer, one of the best photographers in modern sports photography history, named Ron Madra. And as part of the story, Ron Madra leased out the number 25 cable car from the city of San Francisco to have Barry Bonds pose with the cable car. And Barry Bonds agreed to do this. So Ron Madra sets up an entire sort of shoot area with his photo assistants in the cable car, whatever you would call it, building a garage. And Barry Bonds doesn't show up on day 1. And Ron Madra says, can you, hey, Barry, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, all right, I'll do it tomorrow. Day 2, he doesn't show up. Barry, what happened? Bonds like, I got busy. We'll do it tomorrow. We'll do it tomorrow. Or day 3 comes, and Barry Bonds doesn't show up. And Ron Madra goes to Barry Bonds and says, Barry. And Bonds goes, dude, you're just going to have to live with him. And for 3 days, and thousands and thousands and thousands of Sports Illustrated dollars, the number 25 cable car sat waiting for Barry Bonds, who never fulfilled his obligation. The story comes out, and I just want to read what Richard Hoffer wrote. He wrote, as far as anyone can remember, nobody who has really wanted to interview Bonds has failed to get his man. But negotiations for his time are not for the faint-hearted or deadline-driven. A writer might spend the first 3 days just trying to establish the possibility of an interview. Bonds might fail to look up or register any recognition during conversations with the would-be interviewer, might pick at imaginary scabs on his arm and repeat, whatever, dude, over and over. The next phase might be a series of decreasingly vague promises by Bonds as he warms to the idea of the interview. This part of the process also includes actual recognition of the interviewer. Basically, Bonds blew the reporter off for days and days, and it made great material for me because it was just who he was. And the stories of Barry Bonds, the San Francisco years, the way he treated people, this great all-around baseball player who just couldn't have been more of a jackass over and over and over again, was staggering. And there's one of the challenges in writing, in journalism, is you want to present both sides. Like, it's really important to present both sides. And I kept going to people and saying, like, so who's Barry's friends? Nothing. Well, who does Barry like? Well, he's kind of okay with so-and-so. You go up to teammates and be like, what's Barry like? And they'd be like, yeah, he's, what else do you want to know? Like, people hated him, absolutely hated him. And there were a couple of things in researching the book. This just blew my mind, his behavior. One is, when he had played with the Pittsburgh Pirates, the Pirates had a team photographer named Pete Diana. Pete Diana was a really nice guy. He was the Pirates team photographer for years. And he had given Bonds tons of free images through the years. Barry would be like, hey, Pete, can you get me that? Sure. Tons of stuff for free. Well, now Barry's with the Giants. And there's an accident at the stadium in Pittsburgh, and 2 members of the crew die in a tragic stadium accident. And this guy, Pete Diana, the photographer, decides he's going to raise money for the families of the 2 workers. And whenever an opposing player comes in, Pete Diana tells him the story about the workers and says, hey, would you guys mind signing a couple of things that we can auction off? So the Diamondbacks come in, Randy Johnson and Kurt Schilling. Yeah, of course, sign things, bats, balls, whatever. The Dodgers come in, Sean Green, Gary Sheffield. Absolutely, no problem. Well, the Giants come in. And Pete Diana's like, hey, Barry. And, Barry kind of does what he does, which is, he's like, hey, Barry, blah, blah, blah. I don't know if you heard, but there was this accident. Would you be willing to sign a few things? And Barry Bonds goes, fuck you, fuck them. I'm not signing shit. And he walks off. And the quote Pete Diana gave to me, it's the coldest quote I've ever received as a journalist. I asked him about Barry Bonds, and he goes, I hope Barry Bonds dies. The other crazy story, Barry Bonds was played at Arizona State, and one of his teammates was this guy, Jose Rodiles, who had been a pitcher with the Sun Devils. And one day, Jose Rodiles said to another reporter, hey, if you talk to Barry, tell him I say hi. So the reporter goes up to Barry and says, hey, Barry, Jose Rodiles wanted me to send his regards. And Bonds goes, I don't know who that is. And the reporter goes, well, you played with him at Arizona State. And Bonds goes, I don't know who that is. And the reporter goes back to Jose Rodiles and says, hey, Jose, Barry says he doesn't know who you are. And Jose Rodiles goes, doesn't know who I am. The guy was in my fucking wedding. And ESPN at the time, because Barry Bonds was chasing the home run records, both single season and all time, they employed a reporter to strictly be on the Barry Bonds beat. And there was a guy named Pedro Gomez who has since passed away. And was one of the nicest, most decent human beings you will ever meet. You will never hear a bad word about Pedro Gomez. He was a great reporter. He was dogged. He was polite. He was kind. He dressed well. Everything you could say good about Pedro Gomez. And ESPN puts him on the Barry Bonds beat. And Barry Bonds could not have been a bigger dick to Pedro Gomez day after day after day. He knew this guy's job was to cover him. He knew Pedro Gomez had a good reputation. He knew Pedro Gomez was a nice guy. And he would just make his life as miserable and as long as possible. He'd make him wait. He'd ignore him. He'd talk shit about him. It was just the worst. And I have to say, to cover Barry Bonds at that point in time was misery. Absolute misery. The Giants kissed his ass like no ball player I've ever seen before or since. And if you walked into what was then Pac Bell Park, all the players had one locker with a seat in front of it. Some of the players, if you were Jeff Kent or JT Snow, you might get two lockers, so a little extra space with the seat. Barry Bonds had an entire wall. He literally had one side of the clubhouse wall. He had a leather recliner in front of his wall with a big flat screen TV in front of his chair. Barry Bonds had his own team of publicists, two women, even though everyone else had to use a team publicist. He had his two team of publicists who came and went as they wanted. He had his own masseuse who came and went as he wanted. He had his own photographer who came and went as he wanted. Everything in that clubhouse revolved around Barry Bonds. He was insufferably selfish and annoying. And, you would try to talk to him, and it was like for my book, I knew I needed to talk to Barry Bonds. And I called and asked the different people, hey, do you think Barry will talk? No, he won't talk. Hey, any chance I could get Barry? No. And finally, I went to San Francisco, and I knew I needed to go up to him. And it's funny because, I was young at the time. I was probably early 30s. And Barry Bonds was a very intimidating figure. He was juiced up. He was big. He was known to be annoying, and he was known to get annoyed easily and very prickly. And to get Barry Bonds, you would go to him usually before a game or after a game. And I decided I would go up to him before a game. And I walk up to Barry Bonds' chair, and he's sitting there. And his chair kind of faced away. So it wasn't like you kind of have to maneuver around. And I go up to Barry, and I'm like, hey, Barry. I'm like, I do this I try, sometimes as a reporter, you decide what route to take. And with him, I thought the meek, almost like approaching a lion kind of way was to go. So I'm like, hey, Barry. And he kind of does a look like this, like an annoyed look. And I go, hey, I know, you probably know I'm working on this, but my name is Jeff Pearlman. And, I'm working on a biography about you. And I go, I know you probably won't talk to me, but I at least want to give you the opportunity. And he looks at me and he extends his hand. And he goes, dude, I'm not going to talk to you, but I appreciate you coming up to me. And I was like, wow, that's great. And I'm feeling like a little emboldened. And I go, well, just so you know, I've interviewed well over 400 people. And I'm like, I talked to this person, I talked to that person. I even talked to your Cub Scout den mother. And Barry Bonds is getting up. He gets up and he goes, dude, I was never even in the Cub Scouts. Now, I have his Cub Scout picture. I literally have the picture of Barry Bonds' Cub Scout troop that I got from his Cub Scout den mother, Marlene Rossi. And Barry Bonds is walking away from me. And I'm going, Marlene Rossi, I talked to Marlene Rossi. And he just ignores me. And this was the shit that made him so infuriating. He knew he was in the Cub Scouts. He knew who Marlene Rossi was. He knew all of this stuff. But I don't think there's anything worse you can say about someone, maybe he's a murderer or a rapist, but that he took joy in making your life harder. And Barry Bonds is the only athlete I've ever covered who took joy in making your life more difficult, making your existence more difficult, making you struggle for his kicks and giggles. And he did it to the people who held the door. He did it to his teammates. He did it to fans. He did it to members of the media. And it just has always pissed me off. I know I started this by saying I wouldn't mention steroids or PED, but I'm gonna violate that promise for a second and say Barry Bonds has not gotten into the Baseball Hall of Fame. And certainly his usage of performance-enhancing drugs and his refusal to ever acknowledge it or admit it is a big part of that. He cheated. Everyone knows he cheated. And he refuses to acknowledge it. He refuses to admit it. And that's a problem for him. However, there are plenty by now of suspected steroid users in the Baseball Hall of Fame. We can talk about Jeff Bagwell. We can talk about Mike Piazza. We can talk about Big Papi. There are guys, Pudge Rodriguez. There are guys who have gotten in, and there are certainly rumors that have swirled around, rumors I believe in, to be honest, that these guys use PED. And the thing about Barry Bonds that is tragic and true is he turned himself into a pariah. And I think that will hurt him as much as anything. When you are just mean and cruel and callous and rude and dismissive, people remember that shit. People remember how you make them feel. There's a reason a guy like Ken Griffey Jr. is so beloved, or Derek Jeter is so beloved, or Mariano Rivera is so beloved, or Tom Seaver is so beloved. These are ball players who gave you feelings, warm feelings, and made you feel good about being a baseball fan, rooting for their team, rooting for them. And Barry Bonds just didn't care about that. And I always remember a quote that Barry Bonds gave. There was a reporter for ESPN, a really great writer named Jeff Bradley. And one time during Bonds' career, Jeff asked Barry Bonds his secret. And Barry Bonds said, "It's called talent. I have it and you don't." And I remember thinking, what a dick. What a dick thing. Your talent is hitting a ball with a wood stick. That is an incredibly rare thing you have. You are lucky that somewhere way long ago, Abner Doubleday came up with this idea and we're going to hit a ball with a stick. That's your talent. It's totally random. And this guy is as good a writer as you are a baseball player. And he's not taking drugs to be a good writer. He's just a good writer. It really summed up who Bonds was to me. And the thing is, he is now a pariah. He has no place in baseball. He briefly served as a hitting coach with the Marlins, and that was it. And in a way, it's very tragic because he confines himself to his own prison. He didn't have to be that way. And the funny thing is, every now and then you see Barry Bonds, he's on Instagram or you see him interviewed somewhere, and he does seem nicer. And actually, it was a baseball player named Sean Green of the Dodgers who said to me years ago, he's like, we all get nicer when it's over. And I actually think Barry Bonds has probably gotten nicer. He's probably not juicing anymore. He looks like he's a normal size. His head looks normal. Everything looks normal. But to me, he is forever trapped in this fortress of solitude where he decided this is how he was going to live his career. This is how he was going to treat people. And Barry Bonds may well be the greatest baseball player of all time. He's the all-time leader in walks. He's the all-time leader in home runs. He was a four-tool guy. His arm wasn't great, but otherwise he won, I think, 8 Gold Gloves. He's one of the great, if not the greatest baseball player of all time. And not because of steroids, but because of his personality and the person he became No one in the game wants anything at all to do with him. That's a wrap for this episode of Press Box Chronicles with Jeff Pearlman. Leave a comment below on what stories you'd like to hear more about, or if there's a particular sports figure you want me to delve into. Please make sure you like and subscribe. Follow me on TikTok at Jeff Pearlman Author and on Bluesky at Jeff Pearlman. Thank you so much for diving behind the scenes and digging into this story. We will see you next time on Press Box Chronicles.